Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The First Pencil with Kathi and Mike. My name is Mike the Car Guy, and with me, as always, my best bud and just one of the wickedest cool humans alive. How about that? Kathi Cruz.
That is not true.
It is. You are wicked cool. You're
No,
awesome.
nope, not true. But one can strive to be. Let's put it that way. We can always strive to be.
How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Doing awesome. Just came off of a weekend in Vegas that was crazy and tumultuous at the NADA convention. So got a chance to reach out and touch the pulse of the automotive industry, the business that we love so much.
You spent most of your time in the exhibit hall, probably.
All of my time, and that's the difference between going, you know, in the dealership world as a GSM. If there was software, say like a CRM or something that I was interested in, I would go and I'd go talk to the vendors. But it's always cool to walk through and see all the different things, from car wash equipment to electronic software, and everything in between. It's fun. Being a vendor is a completely different experience because you're really leashed to a 20 by 20 space of that carpet, and you can't leave it, and you're constantly being bombarded. And it's really the noise and the conversation and the lights and all the things going on. You can get to sensory overload really, really, really quickly. At least I do.
Uh-huh.
One cool thing that this year NADA did was they created these little, what they called red carpet lounges for the exhibitors. It was
Oh.
off to the side behind like this, kind of wall, so nobody would know it was there. But it was just a little room with some chairs, and they had snacks in there and coffee and water. So like periodically, you could just kind of duck out and just kind of just recharge for a minute, put your thoughts back together, grab a donut, grab they had like muffins, and they would change it up. They had little, just a glass of water, a cup of coffee, gather your thoughts, and then jump back into the fray and attack it again. It was really cool. I even I put a post out, just thanking the NADA folks for doing that. It was something that you can tell there was some thought put into. It was kind of cool.
That's very nice. That exhibit hall gets very loud. And you notice it when you're there, but most of the time, if you're not an exhibitor, you go there and then you leave. But if you're there, all day, that's a rough deal.
Yeah, and that's why I've worked in ADA now 5 or 6 years, attended many before, and there's always those after events, and I'm not interested. I'm just not. There's a lot of people I would like to catch up with, maybe grab a drink, but like if like our friend Bill Playford, right? If he said, "Hey, Mike, afterwards, let's just go to the hotel bar and grab a drink," dude, I'm in.
Yep.
And we could sit there, Brent Weiss, sit and talk and just catch up. But to go to one of these big, after being in sensory overload for 12 hours, and then to go to a concert where you got to yell, and you can't be heard clearly, and you can't really talk. You're just kind of chit chatty, yelling and trying. That's just not for me, and some of the younger guys that I work with, they were like, "Hey, we got tickets to this event, it's the big, super big event." I was like, "I'm gonna pass." What? Are you kidding? Look, I don't want to be a stick in the mud and be the old guy, but here's the thing, I'm the old guy here.
Yeah, but
I'm
I don't
like,
think it's old. I don't think it's old. I think it's if you're an introvert, that is way too much to be, because you have to perform the next day, right? Perform meaning show up at the booth again.
right.
You'd have to have downtime. Introverts need downtime from, if you were doing one-on-one, like with Bill Playford or Brent Weiss, that would be great, because one-on-one is good in a nice coffee shop or a bar that's not too crowded. But yeah, those nighttime big events that the huge monolithic vendors have that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on, they do that for their clients. That's great. But as someone that we've both lived it, you got to have some downtime. And if you don't, you're going to be wasted the next day. You will be no good. And so I don't, I've always been like that. So you might say that it's the older. I don't think it's because you're older. I think it's because you just need your
That was
downtime.
my excuse.
Oh, that was your excuse. Well, that's true.
Just
But
write it off as I'm the old guy. It's okay.
yeah.
I'm okay that I didn't get to see Paula Abdul. I really.
Oh, geez. Holy shit. Really? That's who they had?
Well, it's like who's available. A couple years ago, when
Oy.
what, 5 6 years, 5 years ago now, when it was in San Francisco, the big event was Harbor Cruise,
Mhm.
and on the boat they had not only Vanilla Ice playing,
Oh,
but the
no.
remaining members of Quiet Riot. So that
Oh,
was
no. No.
that was the event to
That
to
is
be
so
at that year.
sad. How sad is that? That is so sad. So sad. So very sad. The extroverts are great. They love it. They love doing it. They get energy from more people.
Sure.
Introverts to get their energy gets depleted the more people there are.
Yeah.
So if you're an
Agreed.
extrovert, it's great. It's awesome. But boy, yeah, conferences. I mean, I told you the other day, I was like, when I first started going to conferences after I got out of the one gig I was in a dealership group, and I had to build, my brand. And I'm like, well, let me see. I don't know how to do, public speaking, but let me just give it a try. And I would go to a conference and then I would come home and it would take me a week and a half just to recuperate.
Sure.
I just wasn't used to having that many people in my face, and the anxiety and the adrenaline that comes from speaking in front of a group of people. I'd never spoken in a group other than like employees, but it's not the same. But yeah, you got to have downtime, but yeah, conferences are for extroverts. I do wholeheartedly believe that.
I
So,
find it, for me, I'm more comfortable walking out onto a stage and speaking to a group than I am like walking up to someone and introducing myself and starting that conversation. I told you the other day, when I first got into car sales, I told myself, like, that old school mentality, the best way to overcome your fear is to do it over and over and over again.
mhm,
And I always found that from where I was standing, when I saw a customer pull on the lot and I said, blue Thunderbird, that made that customer mine, right? From them to where that customer was, that was the longest walk in the world.
mm,
My mind was racing 1,000 miles an hour as to why this wasn't going to work.
mhm,
This guy doesn't look like a buyer. These people aren't going to like me. They aren't here to buy a car. I was just filling my head with all this negative, and that's the one part I never could get past. Now, once I put my hand out, I shake hands. It's like you switch into autopilot, because that
mhm,
part I've done so many times. It's just preconditioned. I know what I'm saying. I know what to do. I know the steps of the sale. I'm very confident in my process and my ability and the product. And more often than not, it worked out. But that emotional roller coaster ride of getting to the customer,
mhm,
once I get into management, I was like, okay, now I don't have to go through that as
mhm,
much. Now I'm just working with people I know, and
mhm,
training and cultivating. And it was just, that 4 years was the hardest of my life.
mhm.
I never got better at it.
Yep.
My sales went up. Don't get me wrong. I was selling.
You probably did get better, but you just didn't realize it. You probably did. I think
And now we talk about networking, right? I know you were like a master networker. And I love that about you. But if I was to go to a networking event where my success relies on me walking up to people, hi, I'm Mike. I do, this. I think I would start bleeding out of my ears, and I would run back to my car crying before I even handed out the first card.
but you did get better at it because introverts particularly will put on a game face and be able to do things that an introvert wouldn't normally do. And you were able to like, you had coping mechanisms around that, and you learned you found your way, and then you made to management. I mean, you don't make it to management just because. So you did do better. It is possible to do better. It's just you have to know. I didn't learn about being introvert, like the traits of introverts I mean, up until maybe just a few years ago,
Oh
because
yeah, me too.
I just thought I was different, right? And many
I thought there was
introverts,
something wrong with me.
or there's some, yeah, something wrong with you. But there's a lot more information out there about introverts
Right.
and the behavior. And I have a couple Instagram accounts I follow and stuff like that. So these traits, and you can look at it like you did the other day. You look and you just read there was some kind of a trait, an introvert, and you're like, that's me, right? And once you go, oh, that's me, then you're like, oh, that's what I am. I'm not this you know, out of the ordinary weird person that doesn't like to be in large groups for long periods of time, right? But
Not broken.
no, you learn more about yourself. And I think they honestly, I wish they would, just like I wish they would teach sales in college, I wish they would teach about introvert, extrovert, because if you have the tools as an introvert or an extrovert, um, if you go into sales or you go into something where you're customer facing like that, you the more you know about yourself, the better you can become. And
The
but
greater
so
your
many
chances
don't
for
know.
success.
Yeah, yep. So many don't realize, and I'm one of them. I didn't learn introverted trait for a long time. Um, so yeah, but anyway, so NADA is an extrovert's heaven. Any conferences, so um, and you can feel like, oh, I'm not like them, like those goofballs that get up on those step and repeats and make complete idiots of themselves. Like, what? Like, we go, I can never do that. I don't want to do that, first of all, but I don't, what? Why
Oh, it
would
was
you?
definitely Carbro centric this year
Oh,
for
oh,
sure.
goody.
I think, but the plus side of that is I think, everything has to peak and fall, right? I think
Wow.
we're at the peak of Carbro culture,
Okay.
and I'm hoping, I believe fervently that we are going to see it start to diminish, because you and I have shared many times, like, what's the end game to becoming a Carbro celebrity? How do you monetize it? And I'm thinking that they're going to run out of,
Yeah.
monetization, and they're going to realize that being a celebrity and having a bunch of followers in automotive doesn't pay the bills.
Uh-uh.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah, they're not monetizing. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. I know too much, shall we say. I know they're not monetizing. It's, you know, I mean, for God's sakes, I'm just read a piece about Eric Idle. He was being very chatty on Twitter yesterday morning, and turns out he's still working because he needs the money. Um, and so when people like Eric Idle from Monty Python, if you're not familiar,
Yeah,
and all the Monty Python movies and all that, but uh, if you're not familiar with him, I mean, they were very, very popular and very, and if he is having income issues and things that have happened, he said he had to sell his house. Like, that's crazy.
that's crazy.
And so just, I mean, if you're idle and you're having issues, like, I just think the culture in automotive retail, especially in franchise automotive, the setup is within the store. There isn't a lot of venturing out to outside of that ecosystem, and these car bros think there is, I think. And maybe there are some. I think there are some for sure, because they have guests and they have people that follow them, but not to the level that,
But it
like,
seems to be that incestuous
monetization.
little circle,
Yeah, incestuous. Yes,
not
yes,
to you. I'm just going to say it's a circle jerk, is what it
yes.
is.
Circle
They
jerk
all
is what it
just
is.
tell each other how awesome they are,
Yeah.
and they like each other's stuff, but there's going to be a point of diminishing returns. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, building an authentic
Uh-huh.
community and following, I
Uh-huh.
ran into our good friend Tim Bartz,
Tim
walking
Bart's.
through the show
Yeah.
with his, I think it was his general manager, and I stepped out of the booth. I walked over and got his attention. He's like, "Hey, Mike," and so we talked for a few minutes, and I went out of my way to tell his GM, what he is doing is what I wish I had the support from a dealer to do 5, 10 years ago, when I was banging my head against the wall to try to do the things that he's accomplished. And that's why I look up to him so much. And we talk about him on the show. And he's like, "I know, you guys, that's so cool that you mentioned me." And I'm like, it's we mention you because you're something to be mentioned, an automotive dealership that's got 80,000 followers on YouTube. That's insane. That's,
Hmm.
how do you do that as a dealership? Because what's exciting about a dealership? What's motivating for a customer to follow a car dealer. You've got to be putting out solid content. You're answering a lot of questions, you're informing people, and you're the number 3 Ford Maverick dealership in the nation now. That's how you monetize it.
In a small little town in Kansas.
Kansas, right? He's
Mhm.
shipping Mavericks across the country.
Mhm.
He's like, hey, and I'll apologize to you, Mike, because I know we sent probably 6 or 7 out to your area. I'm like, you know what? If the dealership that I'm friends with here in my town lost a Maverick deal to you, shame on them. F
Mhm.
them. I'm
Mhm.
happy that you got the deal, buddy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
he's like, we're thrilled with it. I mean, he's just so humble, but he's built his following authentically.
Mhm.
He's not trying to be a celebrity or be famous in the automotive world. He's just trying to help people genuinely. You can just
Mhm.
tell by watching his videos. He's sincerely a Ford fan, a product fan. So he's
Mhm.
just sharing the things that he likes about the product in hopes that he can help somebody make a good decision on the car they want to buy. And that comes through completely authentically.
Mhm.
There's no mistaking it.
Yeah.
There's nothing fake about him. So it's you can use that notoriety in a good way, or you can just try to get that quick notoriety and hope that it pays in some manner.
Well, his notoriety comes from the quality of his content and people that are looking for good technical answers. They have technical questions about certain models, and he is the guy that can answer them. They can go to him for truly trustworthy, good information. He's not going to, not going to be schmarmy and spammy or anything like that. When that's just basically what we've always talked about, building trust, right? But this other stuff, it's their I'm not sure their audience is not a consumer, right? The Carbro audience, that whatever their audience is, I think it must be dealers and maybe personnel and dealers or manager, I don't know, but that's just a different. And like I say, some of them there may be, I think there are some, that appreciate that weird stuff, but I don't. I'm most of the time you're too busy working. And if you do have time, you're going to be with your family. If you do have time to listen to a podcast, for instance, you're going to be with your family. Probably you're going to do like stuff you got to do on your day off, like, I don't know, wash clothes or go to the dry cleaner or go to the grocery store or whatever it may be. Maybe driving to and from work, you might have time for a podcast, but I just don't. Anyway, it's a fascinating thing, and hopefully we are on the other side of it. I hope. I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe we will be. It's just the fakeness of it all. The fake. You've been in those LinkedIn posts where people are back and forth, licking each other up and down. It's like
You're so awesome. No,
Kara
you're
Swisher calls
awesome.
it.
You're
Kara
the
Swisher,
best. No, you're the best.
yeah, Kara Swisher calls it a tongue bath. And I'm just, I am so like, I don't want anything to do with that. If you have a genuine thing to say and some kind of compliment, 100% great. But no, this is all phony shit. And I am fucking tired of it. Honestly, I've had enough.
You and me both.
So,
And thankfully, the atmosphere of the show was very positive, very upbeat. Um, while at the same time acknowledging that sales is going to be challenging for the next year and a half, 2 years for sure, there was plenty of positivity on the shift of focus to dealership fixed ops. There's a
mm,
lot of not only a lot of companies jumping into that space. Finally, fixed ops is getting equal representation with support, with
mm,
software and tools to help better the customer experience in and out. But there's marketing companies springing up that are really focusing on getting the dealership fixed ops to a place of importance in getting the messaging out. So
mhm.
there's this year's going to be really fun, working with dealerships. And I think my timing couldn't have been more perfect to jump into a field that's specifically working with fixed ops.
Yes,
Luckily,
which
I'm not
would
going to
you
say
like
I was
to
like a genius, but I could see it coming. It didn't take a genius to see this coming, so it was a good move.
would you like to elaborate on what you're doing?
Oh, sure. I'm working with a company called Update Promise now, and we provide service lane technologies to dealerships, from online scheduling to vehicle check-in with your iPad or device in the drive at the customer's vehicle where they're comfortable, photo, video enabled MPI, multi-point inspections to generate that trust with the customer rather than have a service advisor call and say, hey, you need a filter. Take my word for it. It's dirty. Now we can send photos, videos, and really engage the customer. AI driven status updates, which is really the foundation of that communication that the factory is really pressing dealers for. They want the customer to feel like they're not forgotten and they're getting information so that if you check your car in the morning and it's 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon and they told you it was going to be ready by 5 and you haven't heard, well, what's the impulse to call, right, and try to figure it out? Well, those incoming calls just to answer basic questions take up time. They clog your phone lines, they stop you from doing things, and so there's just a lot of benefits to the consumer experience that the factory, because of their pressure now to dealers and because of the world we live in, the average length of ownership right now is over 12.6 years here in California. Customers are keeping their cars longer than they ever have before. So they have to invest in them to keep them on the road, which means, they've got choices, right? Do I go to the dealership where I bought it and maybe pay too much, maybe, have it take too long, maybe do this, or do I go to a local service, like a Jiffy Lube or a Valvoline and get it in and out really quick? So there's a lot of perception that the dealers are now realizing, oh shit, we got to change people's idea on getting their vehicle serviced at the dealership, getting basic repairs done at the dealership, buying tires at a dealership. If you got a flat right now, would you think about a car dealership for your tire? No.
No.
You'd be like, where's the nearest America's Tire or Goodyear or Firestone shop? Or Costco, right? Costco has great deals on tires all the time. No one that isn't at a dealership is going to think, I wonder if ABC Motors has a good deal on tires right now. They just don't. Well, why not?
Well, okay,
Because
so
dealers haven't
can
done
I
a good job.
interject one thing, please?
Of course.
Mainly because tires don't make money. Okay. It's much easier to sublet them and not have to store them. I come from Los Angeles area, so we're dealerships, especially I worked in Beverly Hills for a long time, and there's just a lot of space. And tires take up a boatload of space, and there isn't a good profit margin at the time. I mean, there might have been something worked out now. I don't know. But I don't see. I mean, my very good friend is the parts director at a very large BMW store. So, and he doesn't stock tires. So,
A lot of the
just
dealerships
to
that I
say
work
that, I
with,
just need to interject that so that those
yeah,
people that are out there that are hearing that think that it's just you want to run your business that's profitable and that it's just easier to sublet it out. So, but anyway, but I
that was
digress.
just one example.
Yes.
But people's perception is my point.
Yep.
People aren't considering the dealership as much as they should, and that's the dealership's fault. As a group, we've done a horrible job of supporting our fixed ops department, but fixed ops has always kept the dealership open. So
Mm.
now we're seeing that shift in attention, and that's a good thing. I think that's a
Yeah.
good thing. How many general managers and decision makers came out of service? Very few.
Mhm.
So their focus has always been on sales. It's flashy, it's fun, it's romantic, it's exciting. Fixed ops isn't exciting. But if you step back and realize the importance of it, then you start saying, okay, let's dedicate some marketing dollars to it. Let's dedicate some investment to software that can make our employees' lives
Innovation.
better. Innovation, all
The
the
same old,
things.
the same old email marketing is just not going to really work these days, guys. It's just same old stuff ain't going to work.
So it's a good time. I think it's a good time to be in automotive. It really
Mhm.
is.
So we're winding down on time here. So did you
Yeah,
want?
I got one eye on the clock. So
Oh, okay.
you want to talk about the nominees real quick?
Yeah, they announced the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees this year.
We
Some
always have so much fun with it.
shall I mention who they are? Shall I just read the list?
Yes, read the list. I have it
Okay.
here as well. Read it down.
So Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, Cher, Dave, Dave Matthews Band, Eric B. and Rakim, Foreigner, Peter Frampton, Jane's Addiction, Kool and the Gang, Lenny Kravitz, Oasis, Sinead O'Connor, Ozzy Osbourne, Sade, and A Tribe Called Quest.
And if I'm not mistaken, A Tribe Called Quest was on the list last year.
Oh, maybe.
They've been nominated before.
Oh, interesting. Huh. So, yeah, I
Some are
don't,
comical.
yeah, yeah, it's not all of, everyone's always deserving of accolades 100%. It's just that it's a weird choices here. And some of them, Peter Frampton for sure. And then, Sinead, Ozzy for sure.
I
Gas
wonder,
Station for sure.
some of them seem like it's a popularity contest, right? Can
Yeah,
you say that Mariah Carey hasn't sold trillions of albums? Obviously,
right,
she's mastered the charts.
right,
My question would be, if we're going to recognize her impact on music, is
right.
it just sales?
I
Is that
don't,
the only qualifier?
and for years it was on HBO. And I felt like there was transparency or a level, somewhat of a level playing field. It may not have been, but it seemed like it. But now that it's under the ABC world, I just wonder if somehow they're part of the ABC family. I don't know. I hate to be cynical about things, but
I'm cynical by nature.
I just
Dave
wish
Matthews Band. I'm just gonna say it. What the hell?
Dave Matthews, yeah, whatever. And Cher, I love Cher. Who doesn't love Cher for God's sakes?
Sure.
But rock and roll, I don't know. I mean, God, I feel
She's
like
been
they,
incredibly impactful in pop culture,
yeah.
in fashion. I mean, she's had an impact on so many areas, but musically, I don't know that she furthered music or
Well, why'd they do it before? Like long
brought
ago,
something to
right?
it that wasn't there before.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
you compare it against something, again, something close to my heart, Jane's Addiction. When Jane's
Yeah.
Addiction hit the scene, it freaking changed things.
Mhm.
It shifted perceptions. It shook things up. You know, kind of like what the and I'm going to exaggerate to a point of absurdity, but kind of like what the punk scene did in the late 70s. You know, punk came along and just shook everything up
Mhm.
and changed it all. To me, that's what Jane's Addiction did. When they broke the scene, I was like so refreshed and so excited by it because it was so different and so needed and so much. So I
Mhm.
can totally see there's a place for them there.
Mhm.
Dave
Yeah.
Matthews, what did Dave Matthews?
They sold a lot of records, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
were they
Same with
good
Foreigner.
records?
Foreigner did.
Foreigner's a great band, but
Yeah.
what did they do
At
to
least they're rock and roll.
music? Yeah, so people can probably kind of guess where our votes are going to go.
Oh, I have to share something. I follow Steve Van Zandt on Twitter, and just to
Good
know,
follow. Good
I'm not
follow.
on Twitter that much, but I go on there still because people like Steve Van Zandt are still on there. And somebody asked him, "Hey Stevie, what do you think about the state of rock and roll?" And he said, "I really feel like it's seen its best days.
Sure.
And it was, I mean, as right as he is, it's just here. It's sad
Right.
to just, yeah, it's sad because I don't know, it's just sad. Um, but not to say there isn't good music now, but it's just we'll see how this all shakes out. I don't
It's
know
just
when.
harder to find. There's still thousands of good bands slugging it out, trying to make a name for
Yeah.
themselves, putting out good music.
Well, and where's X? X should be there. Where's
Oh, without question. Yes.
Joy Division was on the list last year but didn't make it, but they should be on there. But she should be inducted. X for sure, for God's sakes. And maybe because we're LA people, but and
But when you
I
look back at the
know,
impact, like we are talking, what they
yes,
changed music.
change.
They changed a scene.
Correct.
They made a significant impact.
Hmm.
Have they sold the most albums? No. There's still people that never heard of them and never will hear of them. But there are people that are in music right now that when you ask them, hey, who impacted you?
Right.
They're like X.
Yes, that's right. And Rolling Stone and Village Voice back in the day when their records were being released, they were of the best records of the year. They were number one in a lot of them. Wild Gift was one. The Under the Big Black Sun was number one. I mean, these were, I guess it's because I come at this more from a artistic thing than a sales thing.
There
I always
isn't a
have, so
greatest
you,
albums list of all time that's out there from anyone that doesn't have
right.
Los Angeles on it.
Unless, yes, exactly.
There's just not one. It doesn't matter who put out the list, whether it's obligatory or not.
Right.
Los Angeles is on that list somewhere as one of the greatest albums ever produced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. And yeah, and there's a hardworking band. I mean, they're out. Exene has had some health issues lately. Of course, Billy Zoom had
Billy
some
Zoom went
had
through
cancer.
cancer.
And they're out on the road. I mean, they don't make money if they're not on the road.
Right.
And they're still doing it, and they sound so good. It's crazy how good they sound. So yeah. Um, Speaking of like people that have to go out and make money, right? That
Right.
yeah. But yeah, it's just
Another one, the Good Reverend. I just saw a post day before yesterday. They're going to be locally again. Reverend Horton Heat
mm-hmm. Yeah.
out
They're
on the road,
local.
slugging it out.
Where local, do you know? Do you remember?
In California. I don't really, somewhere in Northern California, maybe
Oh,
Stockton, if I remember correctly. But I just saw him West Coast. So I was like,
oh,
cool.
oh.
Good to see him
You
out
know,
on the road.
So this isn't music related, but there's a guy named Gary Janetti. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but he is friggin' hilarious. He's very, very funny, and he writes scripts, and he writes for a lot of sitcoms and a whole bunch of things. He's very funny. And I came to know him because of his partner, Brad Goreski, who is from the Bravo world. And that's, of course, things I know about. So he was on a show with Rachel Zoe, who's a fashion designer or fashion. She's really she's a designer now, but back then she was a stylist. Anyway, so they're together. But anyway, Gary Janetti, if you talk about a great follow on Instagram, he is hilarious. And so he's going out and doing just talks at places, and I want to go see him so bad. uh, yeah, that's a good follow on Instagram. He's very funny. So anyway, I digressed a little bit. What else did you have today?
Make sure you mention them in the notes too.
Oh yeah, I'll jot it down right now so I don't forget.
Oh, so the other thing, real quick before we wrap up, last week, 2 weeks ago, it was actually probably a month ago, I saw that tickets were going to be available for something special from one of my all-time favorite bands. I always talk about punk and heavy metal and stuff, but that that new wave side of my Gemini personality, I am after New Order and Susie, Pet Shop Boys are one of my all-time favorite bands. Always have been, always will be. I think I physically own everything they've ever made. I've just been just a huge fan of everything Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant have ever done. I've seen them every single time they've come to the States, except the last time when they were on tour with New Order, just because I'm still on strike against Bernard Sumner. But they filmed the
You're going to
concert.
need to explain who Bernard Sumner is, by the way.
Bernard Sumner is one of the founders of Warsaw, Joy Division, New Order.
Mm-hmm.
He and my all-time favorite artist, Peter Hook, had a falling out. And like the child of divorced parents, I felt like I had to choose a side. So I went with Peter Hook undyingly, mm-hmm. and I swore off Bernard Sumner. Petty, I know, but it's just me. There's something wrong in my head. But Pet Shop Boys recorded a concert live in Copenhagen of their singles, all the singles that they had put out. So obviously they're hits, they're big ones.
And so what are their hits?
Oh gosh, there was like 40 songs. What have I done to deserve this? Obviously West End Girls was in there.
West End Girls, that's something people would know about probably.
New York City Boy, Go West, just Suburbia, some of the, from the beginning all the way through, stuff that isn't as popular, bilingual, some of the, like I said, What Have I Done to Deserve This? We All Feel Better in the Dark. Gosh, just an endless succession of, oh, I love that song. Oh, I love that song. Kind of reimagined. They did reinterpret them a little bit. The arrangements were different for the format, but not so much that you didn't recognize the song. The song was obviously recognizable. The lyrics were spot on. They did have, they brought in a backing group of artists, a couple of drummers, a guitarist. Just the way they did it. Normally their shows are really like almost Broadway plays, flamboyant, huge, sets, lots of costume changes, just ginormous in scope. This was just kind of slimmed down with just them on a stage in Copenhagen, and it was filmed live, and the cinematography was really well done. But it was just they sold tickets. It was at the local theater. It was released theatrically, so to see them on the big screen, I'm not going to say it was like being there, but it was certainly better than just watching it.
Wait, I'm confused. So you saw this? You saw this?
Yes, yes,
Oh,
that's
how did
about
you
it.
see it?
I just happened to see it online that Dreamscape was going to be in the theaters, so I got
Oh,
tickets, and
what's it
my
called?
best friend went to see it. It's called Dreamscape.
Dreamscape, and it's in the theater.
But it was a limited run. I'm
Oh,
sure they're going to stream it. So
okay.
that's bringing it all full circle. The whole reason I'm going through that is,
Uh-huh.
if you at all like Pet Shop Boys in any way, whatever service they decide to release it on, that's my recommendation.
Uh-huh.
Sit down and spend an evening with the Pet Shop Boys. It was recorded in Copenhagen at a really nice little venue, kind of intimate, not a huge stadium. The sound is great. The mixing is phenomenal. The arrangements are just awesome. Everything is how you remember it, but better. You know what I mean? Because so many of those songs evoke not only memories, but feelings, emotions, those times that you associate them with what was happening in your life at that time. And it's well worth it. It's about 2 hours long, and I'm telling you, if you're a fan, find Dreamscape from Pet Shop Boys when they release it to streaming and watch it.
Okay, I'm writing that down for the notes as well. Dreamscape. This is where you and I differ in some aspects. I look forward to like serial killer documentaries. Don't get me wrong. I like Pet Shop Boys. I just didn't. I wasn't in love with them. I was more like, I was. But I would watch that. I would watch it if it. There was something the other day that I was just like, they were like, oh, we're trying to get this documentary, and oh my God, it sounded so good. I'm like, oh my God, please, because Sundance just happened, right? And there's a lot of really good things coming up that are being bought by the different streaming services. Netflix, of course, bought a lot of them. So that's going to be really good. All of them,
Speaking
So,
of what Netflix is buying, didn't they just invest in our friends with Smartless?
oh, did they? Or wasn't that, wait, that wasn't that, I want to say Sirius XM.
Serious, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Like $200
Yeah.
million dollars.
Yeah. And
Serious. What was
so
I thinking? Yeah, serious.
Smartlets, if you haven't heard, is a podcast by Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes. And they started it during COVID just to talk to each other. And it kind of the way we started, just like, let's just record our conversations. And it's turned into this crazy thing. And they're very funny. They're all really good friends. They went on a live tour last year. That's a documentary. Highly recommend that. And Sean has won a couple of, they always make fun of him because he's won a couple of
Right.
awards for like the best interviewer or something. I'm sure they're all very surprised that this even got to this point, but yes, Sirius XM, it's something like 100 million bucks or some crazy thing. So
$200 million.
200 million, holy crap.
Right?
Yeah, that's so cool. They're just very, very funny. At the end of the day, they make me laugh a
They're
lot.
super cool. I will be the first to say I've gained tremendous. I've always loved Sean Hayes, loved him.
Yeah.
Will Arnett, okay. I never liked Jason Bateman, never, until I started listening to the show. And when I started listening to the show, I was like, I'm going to listen to it for Sean Hayes. I'm going to hate Jason Bateman. I've kind of grown to really like him.
Yeah.
I completely changed my mind about
Did
him. I don't
you?
know why I had like a lot of preconceived notions about him, but
Yeah.
he's he's not. He's super cool.
No, he's not at all. He's hilarious. And I just love him too from knowing his past and the things he's done in the past. They always make fun because he did Teen Wolf too. They
Right?
make fun of him for that. But Ozark, I mean, Ozark to me was as one of my top favorite ever shows ever, ever. And
Couldn't get into it. We
oh my
tried,
God, are you kidding me?
couldn't.
Dude, come
It just kept
on.
getting worse and worse and worse. I'm like,
Yes, it did.
what,
It was worse for them.
where does this
Oh,
end?
in fact,
Jesus.
I'm about to rewatch it. I'm rewatching True Blood right now. Did you ever watch True Blood before? Oh my God, True Blood on HBO. If you haven't seen it, outside listener, you're missing it. I'm living in the world of vampires right now, and it's pretty cool. But and that has 7 seasons.
Closest I get to vampires is What We Do in the Shadows. I enjoy that show.
I'm about to rewatch Ozark. I'm rewatching stuff, and that's where I'm at because some of the stuff that's out, it's like, what are you kidding me? Like I can't. Like that movie, I know it's got a bunch of awards. The Bradley Cooper and the Leonard Bernstein. I tried to watch it.
Really?
I tried. I got 15 minutes in, and I'm like, no.
I'm out.
I think what it is too is we're so there's so many things that take up our time, and if you're on, let's say you're on a social network, an hour could go by without even thinking
Right.
about it. And so I personally, maybe it's because I'm a business owner too, but I have to watch my time. I have a finite amount of time and energy and brain power. And I'm starting to realize like where I'm spending it and where I'm not.
I'm very guarded with my time. And that's why I sit back and with your podcasts, I always think, my God, you're always recommending these great podcasts. And I have listened to some of them,
Yeah.
but they'll be like at the end of a week on a Saturday. I'm like, I
Can't do
honestly
it.
didn't have a free second this whole week. How do people listen to podcasts,
Well,
watch all these shows, do all these things? Not that I'm any busier than anybody else, because I'm not,
no.
but oh my
But
gosh.
let me just tell you, since you asked, you didn't really ask, but since you mentioned it, I walk every day. If you walk, you need, and so there's that, right? And then on the weekends, I drive an hour to the horse rescue, one way and the other.
Sure.
So both days. And so
Like you were saying earlier, commuting to work, that's the one thing I
yeah,
lost working from home is
yeah,
that drive and having that time to consume something. I go on walks and I'll usually listen to just Jack and Will.
yeah.
That's when I catch up on those episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway.
When I'm working out, I can't listen to podcasts. If I'm going to be like on a stationary bike or on an elliptical, I have to have music. I've tried it with
Yeah, I
listening to
understand that.
podcasts and
Uh-huh.
my pace is off. I can't find the right rhythm. It's just me. I'm weird.
No,
But
that's not
we're
weird.
over,
That's
so we need to wrap it up.
music is a motivator like
Oh,
that.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're out of time.
To
Sorry.
quote the Pet Shop Boys, music is all life's foundation.
Oh, okay. Absolutely.
And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Kathy's newsletter. And Kathi, wrap us up.
Yeah, I'll put a link to my newsletter. It's still going strong, and I have this stack of things to do, and I kind of sort of half-heartedly will. It's not half-hearted. It's just how much time I have, right? And maybe if I it's just there's so many things for me to do, but I do market it a little bit, but I'll start marketing it a little bit better.
That's
So
part of my week.
yeah, well, that's good to hear. Thanks. Okay, so that's it for this week, and we'll see you, or this 2 weeks. We're doing it every 2 weeks, right?
Yes,
For
ma'am.
now. For now. I've been thinking about chiming in. I had a subject the other day, and I almost fired up the recording. I
You should
almost
have.
did, but I got busy and then I didn't. And I might still do it. So you
Well,
might
well,
hear
tune
from,
into for sure.
yeah, you might hear from just me come in and do like a 5 minute, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, because Mike's busy doing his new job and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. But I definitely had a subject that I wanted to talk about. You can tell I still have it in my mind. So maybe I'll do that soon.
You
And
should.
but in the
Douglas.
meantime, we'll see you in 2 weeks or so. And bye for now. Have a good one.